moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We first will begin with the approval of minutes, November 3rd, 2020. Comments, suggestions, a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll begin next with commissioners' comments, reports. Commissioner Vice President Baker.
I'd just like to say good morning to everyone. Thank all of you that are in attendance here this morning. And I know we have the Thanksgiving holiday coming up. I hope all of the families in Washington County take the precaution and follow some of the guidelines that are being set forth. And hopefully we'll be moving forward and getting over all of this COVID-19 stuff here very, very shortly. So we're all just going to have to do a little better and do a little more, and hopefully we'll see some numbers decreasing. So anyhow, good morning and have a good day.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Commissioner Kiefer.
Good morning, good to see everyone. I know we have a couple of citizen comments today. That's a good thing, I think. I know that's been a little low lately. Maybe we can advertise that a little more, that's a possibility to come in and speak to us. We did not meet last week, but last week was Veterans Day. I know there were several events, but since we didn't meet, I just want to take the opportunity publicly one more time to say thank you to all of our veterans, anyone who served in any branch of the armed services to protect our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Monterschmidt.
I'd just like to repeat what Commissioner Kiefer said. Yeah, last week was Veterans Day, and thanks for all that served, currently serving, so we appreciate your service.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Wagner.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say today, but I did get to attend two veteran ceremonies, one at Marty Snook Park and one at the Vietnam Veteran Memorial on the Walnut Street here. You know, I was blessed to be able to serve for 4 years, and it just, I feel like, you know, those people, we're all part of each other. So Pine Klein and his crew built a beautiful monument. If you haven't seen it, stop by and look at it on Walnut Street. It's just really, and I talked to some veterans, went up and pointed out on the maps on the marble or granite, whatever it is, of where they were at in Vietnam, and it was pretty interesting actually. And so I wanted to thank them for that, and I want to thank everybody here for coming. I finally know everybody out there, so that everybody in that gallery I know. So it's good to see y'all. That's all I got.
And thank you, Commissioner. I too attended several Veterans Day events. Took my dad to the Williamsport American Legion Post 202, and Jack Myers was there as a chaplain, and Jack Myers and my dad are the two oldest members of the Williamsport American Legion, so they're both very proud of that. And again, to all the veterans, thank you, and to Jim Klein and that crew that established that Vietnam's Veteran Monument. It's quite a memorial monument, testimony to the service of those veterans and all. A brief announcement. I understand Governor Hogan's going to be on at 2 o'clock with some announcements. The commissioners are quite aware of the COVID surge in Washington County. We're not ignoring it. We're going to wait and see what Governor Hogan has to recommend, and we're going to go from there. But we urge everybody to practice all the precautions with social distancing, wearing the mask, wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. With that being said, then I'd like to continue with staff comments. Is there any staff who'd like to come forward? Krista, anything?
I do. I have a board recommendation request. I have the Washington County Agricultural Education Center requesting to make several appointments. They're requesting that the following be reappointed to serve November 1st through October 31st, 2023. They're looking for Dave Moore, Darren Olden, Mike Starliper, Jeff Simler, and to appoint Ryan Shank, all to serve November 1st through October 31st, 2023. They're also looking to reappoint Dennis Reeder to serve a 4th term, October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023. And with that, a request, they're asking for an exception to the two-term limit as written in the bylaws.
That's for Mr. Reader, correct?
Correct.
I'm on that board, he's a valuable member. I would recommend that exemption be waived for him. Commissioners, any thoughts?
Motion to
Motion.
approve is presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Downey, any comments from you?
A few. Mako has requested that the counties, each county designate the member and alternate member for the legislative committee for this year's General Assembly session. Last year, obviously, was Commissioner Meinl-Smith, who was the member, and Commissioner Klein, who was the alternate. We need to let Mako know who the commissioners are who are going to be serving in those roles this year. So I bring that up for your consensus as to whether there's any changes or whether we're moving forward with the same commissioners in the same roles.
I'm good to continue serving.
I like that. Yeah, let him do it again.
Yeah, good luck down there this year on,
Oh, you're the alternate.
yeah, I'm all right too. I'm okay.
All right, I will let Mako know of those designations. Finally, just want to mention that next week is Thanksgiving. This is our last meeting before Thanksgiving. I want to thank all of our staff for their dedication this year. I want to wish our staff and our citizens a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Mr. Downey, a point of clarification. Our employees work on Wednesday.
They do.
Would we consider allowing them to go home maybe at 2 o'clock to get an early leave out of our office? I think we have a tradition of doing that. Commissioners, would
1 o'clock.
you support, Mr. Baker said 1?
One's fine with me.
Give our employees a chance to get home with their families, beat the rush, and prepare.
I recommend that a press release go out indicating that county office buildings will close at 1 o'clock. Obviously, the landfill likes to stay to their regular schedule because people rely on those schedules. And those employees will be compensated.
There'll be
in
some
other
questions
manner.
about
Yes.
compensation for those, but we'll work those out as always. Is that
Yes.
All right, Commissioners, do we need a vote on that or consensus okay?
Consensus is
Consensus is fine as long as you're providing me direction to move in that manner.
Yes, consensus to move to
Yep.
1 o'clock and help address the landfill employees.
But,
Sorry.
yeah, and
Or others and police.
as well, obviously, police, 911, all of those services, water quality continue around the clock, so.
Correct, they'll be compensated.
Yes.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for that. They'll be very much appreciative for that, thinking of them. Next up, we have citizens' participation. We're going to call first Robert Bowman. Would you please come forward and name and address? And we allot about 3 minutes or so. Yeah, right there. And I think the area's been white, but you're welcome to accommodate.
I just want to thank you all for getting this 2A resolution on the books, getting it signed up, and I know that COVID set everything back a little bit. As of right now, I believe there's only 3 counties in the state that have not done this. I think that would be probably PG, Montgomery County, and Baltimore County, which is to be expected for the most part. Once again, I don't have a whole lot else to add, but just want to thank each and every one of you for adopting this. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Bowman.
Rob.
We have one signed up participant, Mr. Tim Gargano. Would you come forward, introduce yourself, address, and you can have a minute or two of Mr. Bowman's time if you
Sure,
want.
great, thank you.
Take the-
Good morning, Commissioners and staff. My name is Tim Gargana. I come to you today representing 2 organizations. The first is Hafer's Guns in Hagerstown at 15,411 National Pike. And the second as the board directors, president of the board directors at North American Rod and Gun Club in Hagerstown. I just want to also give my support to the Second Amendment resolution proclamation that you're going to be presented here in a few minutes. As far as the Hafer's Gun side, I'm a firearm instructor. Through our training center this year, we have ran probably just about 2,000 people through our training courses. Many of them are Washington County residents, and also many of them are new firearm owners. There seems to be a common thread amongst all these new people into the firearm community. The first common thread is they want to protect themselves, and they want to protect their families, and they're very serious about that. And the second common thread is they want to be law-abiding citizens, and they want to be within the law, and they want to make sure all the I's are dotted and Ts are crossed as far as the regulations. So this Second Amendment resolution has certainly been a great support to that, and I think it certainly backs the citizens of Washington County and shows where the county government supports the citizens and your constituents. As far as North American Rod and Gun Club, we're one of the largest sportsmen's organizations in Washington County. We're located just east of Hagerstown. I call it the little-known gem of Washington County. We're tucked away back there. Commissioner Wagner comes to us for lunch every once in often, and it's a good lunch deal back there, so come see us. But anyway, our monthly meeting last night, the resolution proclamation was read. It got an overwhelming support from all of our members. They were really impressed with it, and they were also really impressed and I am also, that we saw Sheriff Mullendorf's signature on that document too. As you know, the county sheriff carries a large amount of clout and weight when he speaks in Annapolis, and to see that signature on the resolution, all of our members are very impressed. So again, we supported 100% on behalf of Hafer's Guns and also North American Rod and Gun Club, and we certainly appreciate the commissioners for all the effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gargano, will you wipe down, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank
Your
you.
lunch at North American, is it open to guests, or do you have to be a member? Or
We can
guest?
sign you in. Come on out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Wagner hasn't invited me out yet, so I'll just come out alone.
What can I say, Jerry? You're welcome.
Krista, would you? Hey, thank you. Any other citizens participants scheduled? Krista, no one else had signed up, right?
Correct.
Would you just briefly explain how citizens can sign up for citizens participation? Or
Any citizen wishing to speak or present on any matter before the Board of County Commissioners can submit a request to me at khart@washco-md.net, or you can phone me at 240-313-2204 at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. Open session agenda is released typically on Thursday or Friday, and you're welcome to contact me anytime following the release of the agenda, up until usually 4:30 on Monday, so that we can prepare for any citizen participation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we'll go to the agenda for the Second Amendment resolution. Mr. Hafer, Mrs. Hafer, would you come forward, name and address, and identify the topic?
And Mr. Hafer, I've heard the commercials. She's the owner.
That is correct.
Anybody who comes in will tell you that.
I'll vouch for that.
So I'll go first. Rebecca Hafer, 13504 Greencastle Pike in Hagerstown. And I just want to make a brief statement before Tim starts. You know, you hear that commercial about females, right? And females are the #1 growing population in the firearms industry. And a lot of that is for personal protection. So over the past month, we've had over 140 women in our ladies only classes looking to defend their homes, their families, and their lives. And they're being more proactive. Instead of waiting until they need it, they're doing it now, so that way they're ready if they ever do need it. And that's one of the most important things with this Second Amendment resolution.
Tim Haver, 15411 National Pike, Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm there 7 days a week almost, so that's pretty much where I live. I appreciate each and every one of you. I was reached out to a while back as the counties proceeded wanting to do a sanctuary throughout the state of Maryland. I guess I was the lucky chosen one that somebody contacted me and asked me to go forward. I reached out to every one of you without incident or argument. You agreed that the safety for the citizens in Washington County is of the utmost importance. Anybody that's ever fought for America in any shape or form realizes how well the Second Amendment protects us, and as well as you county commissioners realize. I also want to thank the sheriff. He agrees as well. I appreciate everyone's support on this. It's very important throughout the United States we reach out to the Constitution and every amendment, but 2A being one of the utmost important. I appreciate your time, and thank you for everybody's support on this.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Baker, would you like to have a comment?
I'd like to thank you all again for coming in, and probably shouldn't say this, but I had Tim in school back in the 80s, I believe. And, you know, back in that day, I was just a shop teacher, industrial arts teacher, and many times kids would bring their guns to school, and we'd redesign, redo the stocks and things like that there, and that was just a way of life. Guys had their guns in their car, and, you know, when school was out, they were going hunting. And of course, you know, everybody sees the times and just, you know, just how much they changed. So I will have to ask you, and I can't remember, did you ever bring a gun to school?
Yes, sir. I remember we'd ask you, and you'd give us permission, we'd come out and we'd give it to you, you'd check it, and
Yeah,
we'd do whatever we needed to do.
they were the good old days.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments?
I can't say enough about the Hafers and the whole staff. Very professional, treat you with respect, very knowledgeable. I think Becca's the most knowledgeable, actually. You know, I've frequented there quite a bit. Tim always sends me a message if there's something in it I'm looking for. It's you can tell that it's there for the right reason. So that's, you know, congratulations on your success there, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you
Commissioners?
for,
I'm sorry,
Wayne?
now you go ahead.
thank you for helping to bring the 2A resolution before us. Great business that you own. I've had an opportunity to do business, and I can say you were more accommodating to me than probably what you should have been. So thank you for that. And, you know, on all branches of my family tree, we own guns, and we own them and use them responsibly, as it should be. I think many people take the freedoms we have and for granted in our country, and they're not appreciated until they're taken away. And that's throughout history. We see that. So thanks for not allowing this freedom to go away, this right to leave us without a fight. Thank you.
And I see Dr. Clawberg just come in, and I know many of you think he's here for the school board nominating committee to represent them, but deep down, he's an outdoorsman. He's here for this Second Amendment resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmidt, any comments?
I'd just say thank you for bringing this in front of us so we can get it done. Thank you.
Okay, in closing, I want to thank you. Mr. Kiefer mentioned sometimes our rights are eroded in increments, and before you know it, they're gone. This is a strong stand that Washington County people support the Constitution and our Second Amendment rights. In these trying and troubling times, to make sure that we have that right fully installed in the Constitution and not whittled away is important to all of us. So I thank you very much. With that being said,
Commissioner, do you have two resolutions?
yeah, well, same thing. I'd like to invite Mr. Baker and Mr. and Mrs. Hafer up to the flags, and we're going to read the resolution.
One's for the
One, we're going to
Hafers,
present to him to
the
keep
other one's for,
us here, this day.
that's what I wanted to hear.
And then we'll get a group picture of everyone. I'll have you all stand right here. Terry, you want to get on that side of them, or?
Whatever you tell me.
Okay, we're fine. Sheriff, would you like to join us? Please do. It's been a long time doing this. COVID kind of interrupted our schedule and everything, and it looks like COVID's about to interrupt a lot of things in life, but it's important for the commissioners today to have this event today and make this resolution public. So on behalf of all the commissioners, the sheriff, and all the citizens, we'd like to read this proclamation. Support of Second Amendment of the United States, November 17th, 2020. Whereas the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whereas the members of the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, as is the case for all elected officials in Maryland, are sworn to protect the Constitution of the United States and the laws thereof. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County wishes to express its concern about the passage of any bill containing language that could be interpreted as infringing the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Washington County to keep and to bear arms. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County wishes to express its intent to stand as a sanctuary county for Second Amendment rights and to oppose, within the limits of the Constitution of the United States, any efforts to unconstitutionally restrict such rights and to use such legal means at its disposal to protect the right of citizens to keep and bear arms. As I grasp some air, thank you. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, that the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County hereby express its intent to uphold the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Washington County, Maryland, and its intent that public funds of the county not be used to restrict Second Amendment's rights or to aid in the unnecessary and unconstitutional restriction of the rights under the Second Amendment of the citizens of Washington County to bear arms. 2, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County hereby declares the intent to oppose unconstitutional restrictions on the right to keep and bear arms through such legal means as may be expedient. And 3, Washington County is hereby declared a sanctuary amendment sanctuary. And 4, we will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Signed this day by the Board of County Commissioners and Sheriff Allendorf. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
For the advocacy that they do on behalf of the citizens of Washington County and Napa, because I know they travel a lot to testify on the bills that come forth regarding firearms and Napa.
We want to wait for the chair. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
We actually have a public hearing scheduled at 10:30. We should probably do that first and come back to
Public
this
hearing first.
matter.
I'll be right with you.
Good job, Jeff.
Pass it down to the commissioners and back to me for signature. Mr. Downey, do I need to read the public hearing, take oath? Is this okay just to announce the public hearing on this one?
You can announce a public hearing, and then we'll explain how public comment can be received, given the
Right.
nature
Thank
of
you.
the meeting.
Again, thank you to all who was here for the Second Amendment resolution. Next on our agenda is a public hearing. Mr. Downey, would you introduce the public hearing?
This is a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the Solid Waste Management Recycling Plan. It is a text amendment. The manner in which the hearing will proceed will be as follows. Ms. Baker will introduce the matter and explain the proposed amendment. Thereafter, there will be opportunity for any of the commissioners to ask her any questions that they may believe to be appropriate. Given that public attendance is restricted due to the COVID-19 crisis, I would suggest that we leave the record open for a week. Any citizen who wishes to comment can do so by providing either written testimony and comment to Ms. Hart, the county clerk. They can do that by mail, by email to her address that is listed on the county's website, and they can make comment by telephoning her and leaving a voicemail message as well. So therefore, anybody who wants to make any comment should do so by the close of business next Monday, November 23rd.
November 23rd, meeting on the 24th.
Right. So we just need a deadline to cut off the comment period. And then this matter will be brought back for official action at a
Comments
later
can be
date.
by email. All right. Jill
Jill,
Baker,
anything else?
please introduce yourself and the matter.
This is, I'm Jill Baker. I'm the Director of the Department of Planning and Zoning. Before you today is a text amendment to the Solid Waste Management and Recycling Plan. As stated in your agenda packet, there was legislation that was passed by the Maryland General Assembly during the 2019 session that requires counties to include office recycling plans into their solid waste management recycling plans. The purpose of the office recycling plan legislation is to require large office complexes that are greater than 150,000 square feet to implement recycling plans and strategies to help divert recyclables from local landfills. We reviewed this information and found that there were only 3 complexes in Washington County that would meet these requirements. One would be the Citibank complex in the north end of town, First Data, and Robinwood Medical Center. These amendments have been reviewed by the Maryland Department of Environment and have been found to be consistent with the requirements of the legislation. These amendments have also been reviewed by the Planning Commission and gone through their public input process. No comments have been received from the general public at this time, and the Planning Commission has recommended approval of these amendments. That's all I have on this. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
I have a specific question on this. So the Robinwood Medical Campus, does that mean the building? Because it's specific to the building owners. So does that mean the building itself has to plan? Does that mean every single individual office has to have a recycling program?
That means that in the legislation it talks about the owner who has to coordinate that. So the owner of the building would have to coordinate between each of those individual offices and how they recycle. I think it's pretty standard right now that most of these already have recycling programs in place. You'll see both from a public standpoint where you have general recycling receptacles out in the hallways, and then most of the offices already recycle anyway. They have in their break rooms, they have the different recyclable containers and so forth, but it would be managed and it would be monitored by the building owner.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Hearing none, thank you. Comment period open to what day again?
I do have a question for you. Do
Go
you have
ahead,
any idea on what the total cost of a plan or something like this is?
I have no idea what the cost would be. My guess would just be in what little bit of capital for to get the receptacles up and going. But like I said, this is almost standard procedure anymore for the overwhelming majority of businesses that are open now anyway.
As long as they don't lower the threshold.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. So November 23rd for public comment, and then
Okay.
we'll bring this back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Moser. Todd, would you come forward? Thank you, Joe, for wiping down.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Abandonment of right-of-way, Todd Moser, real property administrator. The owner of the Big Pool AC&T has requested the county abandon the unused right-of-way fronting the AC&T property and Big Pool. A right-of-way consisting of a 25 feet wide strip of land formerly known as Big Pool Road, Route 56, also known as a portion of Tedrick Drive, has not been used as public access for over 20 years since the redevelopment of the land and construction of the entrance to the AC&T. The right-of-way serves no benefit to the county, and abandonment of the right-of-way does not impact access for others. Just to clarify here, if you refer to the map that I provided, the yellow strip, so the county does not own this ground in fee simple. We just have an easement, a right-of-way there. Just wanted to clarify that.
Todd, what was the intent of that originally, you know?
Well, it was actually a road at one time before 70 was there, I believe.
So the road went before 70, just,
Yeah, now from what I can tell, Tedrick Drive, it never really connected to there's a fence now that blocks off that end of Tedrick Drive there. And there's a little bit of an elevation elevation difference there from that strip there to actual Tedrick Drive.
Is there any reason why we have it currently?
Staff can determine no use or future use of that easement.
I'd motion to approve.
Well, I think there's gonna be some more discussion. Personally, I think it should go to public hearing before we just give up the easement to that piece of property. That's gonna be my position. But the state owns to the middle of the road.
So this is where, some of these easements get into some gray area here. If you look at that yellow strip, technically, the owner of the AC&T owns to the middle of that easement area. Although if they get their land surveyed, it wouldn't show that. And then if you see, I have another small parcel here highlighted in the white. That's state right-of-way. Okay, it's not, they added it to the right-of-way when they did 70, so we're not blocking access to that parcel. But technically, the state would own to the middle of that yellow strip as well on their side of the
I
property.
guess what I'm seeing, it serves no purpose whatsoever, and it'll never serve any purpose. You never say never too awful much, but can anybody come up with a theory that would be?
I mean, I've went to my supervisor in engineering, I've reached out, we can find nothing that would indicate that the county would need this easement.
But the county had to purchase that easement at some point in time?
The deed is from the 1800s.
Oh, okay.
The deed does mention that damages were paid, but does not indicate, what was paid for that easement back in the 1800s.
And why is the fence up? You said there was a fence up at the start of that right-of-way in there.
I don't know the history of that, but the elevation difference may have something to do with that. So vehicles wouldn't run off the edge of that road there, would be my guess.
Yeah, there's a grade there and there's a drop, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm just gonna put it out there, I'd prefer a public hearing before I give up any easements in that particular area.
I don't know, I'd stick with my motion to approve it.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, is there a second, and then we can go to discussion?
I'll second it just so we can go to discussion.
All right, discussion?
Kirk, is there, because is there a, giving up an easement, is precedent of that going to public hearing? Is there a public hearing for that?
Generally, no. I mean, we have to comply with notice of our intent to convey land as provided for in the Code of Public Local Laws, but that doesn't necessarily require a public hearing. It simply provides notice and the opportunity for the public to provide comment to Todd.
So have we provided notice on this?
If I could, our intention is not to convey anything. Well, we're not gonna convey this easement to the AC&T.
Right.
Actually, a draft deed that they have sent me had asked for convey of that easement. Our only intention is to abandon.
That's the language you have there.
Abandon our easement.
Right.
So we don't intend to convey anything.
Well, if you abandon it, I don't understand the difference between abandonment and convey.
Well, we don't have anything to really convey. We don't own the ground in fee. But if someone were asking us to convey the easement, I'm not sure what good that easement would do for someone. The easement was intended for public use. We're just looking to abandon that easement.
So who owns the road from where you said the fence is on the yellow there? down in front of the community building and so forth.
Well, Tedrick Drive is a county road.
So the county does own all the way up to that yellow section that you have etched in there on the drawing.
Yes, but that could also be, not all county roads are fee. That could also just be a public right-of-way.
You just said the county owned that.
I may have misspoke. The county has it's a county road. So whether the county owns that section in fee or that section just an easement.
Can I ask you again, what's outlined in white, the community building? What's the significance of sharing that with us again?
Just for landmarks, I wanted to share that.
I guess I do have one more question. Why are we even bothering? What brought it up to, why would we bother to even bring it to, why would we even care if it was abandoned or not? Just to clean up things, or?
Yeah, to clean up, you know, when a developer reaches out or the council for a developer reaches out, then I bring it to you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
One more comment. My suggestion would be, I like the idea of allowing some citizen input on this. I would remind my fellow commissioners, it wasn't so long ago when the planning commission asked for citizen input. Project from down to a pipe that had some community interest in it. So I would allow this community also an opportunity to.
So, back to my other question. Have we given notice on this?
I don't know at what step we are in the process. Obviously, it's a matter of public discussion because it's on our agenda, and, you know, the public is generally aware of it's been advertised.
Okay.
Our agenda has been advertised and made public.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree with what Wayne said, but I think I'm back to one thing. Why would anybody care? Is it affecting,
Well,
why was it requested to be abandoned? Where, is there a motive there somewhere I'm missing?
Sure, I don't know the background of the project, but I'm sure there's some sort of expansion of that property, whether it be a parking lot or whatever it may be, entrance. They can't build that over our easement. So that's.
More information from the developer then as to why this is important to the project?
Sure.
Maybe we need to find that information out.
Yeah, I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, motion and the second withdrawn. All right, you have direction to bring more information back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, appointment of Board of Education member. Mary Lee Kearns, please introduce yourself in the matter. Dr. Clauber, did you want to join at the? You were part of the committee. If you're welcome to join, sir.
Good morning, Mary Lee Kearns. Do you need my address? 5 Stauffer Avenue, Boonesboro, Maryland, and I was appointed chair of the nominating commission.
Dr. Jim Clauber, 9008 Cynthia Court, Boonesboro, and I was a member of the nominating commission.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Well, I guess guess you wanted a brief report of what we did, which we did. We met to develop and outline a process for applicants. We met to review our applicants. We held our public hearing, and we interviewed the candidates that had applied, and then we met to decide upon, from the candidate interviews, for decision and recommendation to the county commissioners. I know the process seemed rushed, 30 days. I don't think it was so rushed, except for the COVID and the fact that we had an election in between there. We were disappointed that we did not have more applicants, and we were also disappointed that people who had submitted their names to run for the Board of Ed, vacancies, more had not applied. We kind of had timed our process so that the election would be held before we made our final decision. So if any of those applicants had applied and were, next in line, could have been on the list, but that, they failed to apply. So I conveyed with legal counsel, and we were, since they did not apply as the process had outlined, we were not allowed to consider them. I do want to make sure I thank staff, Kirk Downey, County Legal Counsel and Interim County Administrator, Krista Hart, County Clerk, Danielle Weaver, and Josh, I think his last name is O'Neill, helped with the technical setup. So everybody was very helpful with getting us what we needed, and I feel that the committee was a good diverse group and that we weighed all options and that we did a nice job. And so we had recommended Dory Nibbs and Daryl Evans and let you guys up to make the final decision.
Okay.
I don't know if Dr. Klaver has anything to add.
Oh, no, they're two good candidates.
All right, commissioners' comments, thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you for your service and your leadership.
Oh, no problem, thank you.
I'd like to also say I was disappointed that not more people applied. I was hoping that we were going to get a lot of people because with everything going on, having good leadership is extremely important.
Thank you for your service, and please share with your other committee members too if you have any interaction with them that what they did was important. Doesn't come without scrutiny, unfortunately. With anything, a good deed rarely goes unpunished. But thank you for serving. I think you served us well. As far as the process works, you're right. I mean, we had 30 days to work with, and that's the timeline that we were given. The process unfolded just a couple years ago, very much exactly the same as it did before. And I would just repeat that the person that was eventually picked that last go around turned out to be the top vote getter in the next election when she was up for re-election. So I think the process works, and thank you for helping to make sure it works.
Yes, thank you, Mary Lee and Dr. Clover. I got to watch one, I think the first meeting was, I don't know if they were all recorded, but I watched one meeting. I thought it was well run. Thought everybody was first class on your committee. I just thought you did a good job. Again, be nice to be trying to choose out of 10, or 3, but we're good.
And every committee you've ever been assigned to and everything you do out there in Washington County and our community, you do an awesome job. You're always on the top of your A game. Dr. Clover needs to take note of that because anytime he needs to put a committee together at the college, I'd be calling you.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. We have 2 candidates to consider their comments about one or a suggestion or a motion. Please continue.
I do have to say, after the nominating committee sent us the names, I don't know of another topic that I've received more emails from citizens for both of these people. A lot of strong emails, strong opinions on both the people and that was very good for for me on trying to make this decision. But both people had a lot of supporters for that. I just want to put that out there. I know I'm assuming everybody, but I received a ton of emails and phone calls over this.
Yeah, I did too. And also want to think that for me, I don't know either one of them very personally. I've spoke with each of them over the years. Very limited conversation. I think I'm looking strictly at paper here, and for me, with special education, mathematics, and a financial background, I'd probably have to lean a little bit toward Daryl Evans, but I'd let the rest of the commissioners weigh in and see what they say.
Are they both being recommended from your board unanimously?
Yes, the board unanimously voted to recommend both. They did not wish to narrow it down any further. Sorry.
Commissioners, any other comments? Somebody want to nominate motion for one?
Both outstanding candidates, and I know Doria served the community well in her capacity as school board member years ago. And again, Randy made strong points for Daryl Evans. They're both outstanding candidates, so it's going to be a tough decision.
Commissioners, any other comments or call for a motion to appoint one?
A question, if I may ask, can I seek a bit more input from the 2 of you, or is that not a fair thing to do, or?
What's your question?
Okay, so let me ask my question. As you mentioned, and Commissioners Schmidt and Wagner referenced, it's a shame we didn't have more people apply. Of the two names you presented to us, I know both of them, not super well, but enough to have them in my contacts in my cell phone. Both great, outstanding people. A concern I've heard from citizens, and I'm just passing this concern along from constituents that have reached out to me. One candidate was also appointed to a position that he currently holds, Mr. Evans, a position that would otherwise be elected. So that candidate would hold two positions that are otherwise to be elected. What's the fairness of that? Mrs. Nips, her husband was also appointed to a vacancy on the judge of the Orphans Court back earlier this year. Is it fair to concentrate power, again, for two positions that are otherwise elected within one family? If a dynasty is to be created in Washington County, it should be done by the voters, not by officials.
Well, again, the process outlined by the Constitution in our county charter is that when someone does not fulfill their elected term, it allows for appointment. And again, the people that applied for those appointments when they were open was a limited list. And I guess part of that just says that those people are eager to serve their community.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not against any of those candidates who applied.
Right.
Well, I think if whoever's appointed, if the voters don't like them, they'll be up for election. They can throw them out of office. So there's the people making a decision.
Correct.
Commissioners, any more comments before I ask for someone to make a motion to nominate?
Mr. Chairman, I would just say that, the discussion certainly among the committee was, by giving you two choices, was to give you really kind of a variety in selection in what you might want in a school board member. You've got one individual who's well seasoned. I mean, she can start today, ground running, no problem. She's because she's been on the she's been on this commission before. She's been on the school board before. The other one is a fresh face, but I will tell you, with regards to Mr. Evans, I didn't have a whole lot of expectations when we interviewed him, but his answers were extraordinarily good, and has a very good knowledge base about education and what needs to be done, and I was just very impressed with what he had to say. So it was a very difficult thing for us, but we wanted to make sure that you had kind of a variety of a choice, that you could either look at one of those two candidates, and depending on what you may want with regards to experience or with regards to someone who may be coming in that would be new, that would give you an opportunity to choose one.
Thank you.
Neither of them, Daryl Evans was a write-in, correct?
Correct.
And Dory wasn't on the...
No, she did
not run.
No.
I'm gonna make the motion for Daryl Evans. I think at this point and the situation with Board of Education, county, everything, I think a fresh face, an outside perspective would be a good thing for any leadership at this, any committee, any leadership at this point.
Yeah, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I would second that. I think Mr. Evans has the opportunity to bring both an education perspective and a private sector perspective, which I think would be important.
Now,
I have a first and a second. Discussion may begin.
With your concern, I know we cannot mandate this or ask this, but I would hope that Mr. Evans steps down from the Republican Central Committee, because I agree with you. I don't think he should be selecting should be in two different elected roles. I know we can't mandate or force that, but I would hope that he would do that.
All right, have first and a second. All in favor? Daryl Evans, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you very much for your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for everything you do. I'm going to listen to your audit report, if that's okay. Boonesboro just had ours, and I'm a little proud.
Next on our agenda will be the FY 2021 budget adjustments from our school board. Gentlemen, welcome. Dr. Michaels, welcome. Please introduce yourself and the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Jeff
morning,
Root, Chief
sir.
Operating Officer, Washington County Schools. Good morning, David Brandenburg, Executive Director, Washington County Schools. We are here in front of you today seeking budget adjustments to the FY21 general fund operating budget for the Board of Education. Annotated Code Article 5-101 does call for the periodic reforecasting of expected expenses and revenues over the course of the year. The Board of Education's Finance Committee reviewed the adjustments at their meeting on October 27th and recommended them for full approval by the Board of Education, which was received on November 3rd, 2020. You have a document, I believe, that's been shared with you, and Mr. Brandenburg and I are happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments?
Quick question I have on the revenue decrease of 220,000 reduced interest income due to rates near zero. What were the rates projected and what did you receive?
We are finding that we had investments that were earning like 1 3/4% to 2%, and they are being called before maturity, and they're all we can get on that, no matter if we go out 1 year or 2 years, is about 0.1%. So we're getting a fraction, a very small fraction of what we were earning before. So that's a substantial reduction in our budgeted interest income.
So I'm assuming we're going to see that pretty much every month from here on out with that reduced
Well,
revenue.
this was projected as a new estimate of what we had at the time. Since this has been done, we did have another investment that was called early and resulted in another approximately $50,000 to $75,000 decrease, I believe.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions?
You had mentioned it was reviewed by your Finance Committee. What's the makeup of your Finance Committee? Our Finance Committee is chaired by Board Member Bickford and Board Member Peter Bickford. Oh, gotcha. Okay. And other members on the committee are the Vice President Stan Stauffer and Linda Murray.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Don't have any other questions?
I move to approve.
Second.
I have first and a second. Is there any other questions? All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is presentation of the June 30, 2020 audited financial statements. Mr. Lehman, please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter, and gentlemen, thank you for cleaning there, the cleansing. Mr. Lehman, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I have a presentation. I don't know if it'll be shared on the screen, but if not, I can just talk through. Oh, there we go. But good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Lehman. I was the engagement partner, again, on this year's financial statement audit, as well as the additional required audits under our scope of services. If you turn to slide 6, this highlights our reports that we were engaged to complete. So, next slide. We were engaged to audit the June 30, 2020 financial statements of the county. Along with that, there's a uniform financial report that goes to the state upon completion of the financial statements. The due date for that was the end of October, and both of those deadlines have been met. In addition to doing the annual financial statement audit, we've been engaged to audit or do a annual single audit, which is an audit of federal funds that are spent by the county on a fiscal year basis. There's also a couple 990s that we have to complete for the golf course and the agricultural center, as well as some various other state or county required reports that supplement the financial statement audit. Next slide. As far as the financial statement audit, we've issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the financial statements that would say that the financial statements are reasonably free of material misstatement, and that's the best opinion we could give under professional standards. We did not discover any instances of fraud. A financial statement audit is not a fraud audit, but we are required to have a healthy skepticism that it could happen at any time. We did not have any material weaknesses in the internal control structure, nor did we have any disagreements with management or items that we didn't receive full cooperation. Had we had any of those items, we'd be required to bring that to the commissioner's attention through that process, as well as we didn't have any audit adjustments that we made to the numbers that we were provided from the general ledger, which would speak to the quality of your accounting and the general ledger system throughout the year. Next slide. Next slide. This is just a picture of our risk-based audit approach, and in the approach we also assess the internal control environment as well as specific control activities, which I've highlighted the results of those on the next slide. So looking at the internal control environment, there's 5 interrelated components we look at in the model that we use, and we concluded that the environment was effective for the period under audit. Next slide. As well as looking at certain key processes and testing the controls around those processes, we looked at the treasury function, which includes bank reconciliations, investment reconciliations, looking at estimates within the financial statements, the timeliness of closing the books, and accurately providing financial statements for us, the disbursement cycle. And then on the next page, looking at the payroll function, revenue, fixed assets, and grant compliance, we assessed that those areas were effective for the period under audit. Next slide. I won't read through each one of these points, but this would be our opportunity if we had problems getting through the audit, if there's barely acceptable accounting policies, if we had unsupported transactions, fraud concerns, anything of that nature. I'd be required to bring that to the commissioner's attention, through the course of this process, because although we could still issue a clean opinion on the financial statements, had there been problems, I would still be obligated to let the commissioners know that. And there's really nothing of a negative nature I would need to bring to your attention through the completion of the audit. Had there been, I'd try to do that ahead of time so it's not a surprise, but just working with Sarah and her department, as they have questions about accounting matters, we kind of deal with them real time. So there's really no, surprises or kind of unwinding of transactions that we have to do when we come out for audit time. Are there any questions or comments?
It sounds like you're giving raving reviews.
It was a good audit. And what's been kind of unique, clearly with COVID kind of throwing a wrench into everyone's lives, I've had a number of clients that have not been able to meet their standard deadlines for their audit with the state and have had to ask for an extension, and the county has not had to do that. Preparing financial statements by October 31st is not even easy in a normal environment, but that original deadline has still been met, given the environment that we're in.
Well, I'd like to thank and congratulate Sarah and her team on this. I know it's always a difficult time, but congratulations.
I would second that. Yeah, he knows the numbers I don't so well, but I listened to you and you summarized it in like 100 words or less. Great.
Well, you only gave me 5 minutes, so and plus with the mask,
Good
it's
job.
a little tougher to talk.
Commissioners, any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, thank you for your report.
Okay.
Appreciate
Well,
it. Thanks to
Appreciate
all
your time.
involved.
Commissioners, just a matter of record keeping. When you did the 2A amendment, I'm not sure that there was a motion to approve that resolution. For the accuracy of the minutes as well as the validity of the process, I would recommend at this time that a motion be made to approve the 2A amendment.
All right, is there a motion?
Approve the 2A amendment as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have first and second, all in favor? Aye, 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the upkeep of the, appreciate
Good
that.
catch, Kurt.
Actually, it was Krista.
Oh, good catch, Crystal. Here comes a celebrity now to tell us all about the budget.
I like to follow that.
Yeah.
I'll start counting your words.
Sarah,
Yes,
please
sir.
introduce yourself in the matter.
Thank you, sir. Sarah Greaves, Chief Financial Officer, here to present to you the fiscal year 2020 year-end results. Before I do, I'd like to just give a shout out to my team who invests a significant amount of time in the annual financial statement preparation and audit process. They do normally come to this presentation but are not here due to COVID. So I just wanted to recognize their efforts and thank them publicly for an outstanding effort this year. Okay, so there have been quite a few unusual circumstances in fiscal year 20. They've had a compounding positive effect on year end. In front of you, you can see a summarized account of our revenues, $245.8 million. Expenditures came in at $236.2 million, meaning a surplus or positive result for the general fund of $9.6 million. That does represent about 4% of our general fund budget. Next slide. FY 2020 unusual circumstances. The information in front of you, if you think about that $9.6 million number, represent about $7.5 million of that 9.6. So we did receive larger than expected income tax distributions. Other counties and the state also received higher than expected income tax. We have had several conversations with county leaders and the BRE, and the result is due to the stimulus for the unemployment, which provided an additional $600 per week. I am going to talk a little bit more about income tax when we get to the revenue slide. So bear with me. Oh, go back real quick. Thank you. The other unusual circumstance were the delays to healthcare procedures and medical costs. As COVID hit, a lot of the procedures that employees and their families may have had scheduled were delayed. People were not going to the doctor. They were avoiding the emergency room. They were using telehealth where possible. All of these decisions had a positive impact on our fiscal year and for fiscal year 20. Now, we do expect that those cost savings will probably come due in fiscal year 22 or 23 as people reschedule those procedures and so on and so forth. So we do expect to see an uptick of some of those delayed or deferred expenditures in the future. And I just wanted to include some unemployment rate information for you. In February, prior to COVID, we were around 4%. We did reach a high in April of 11.4%, and our most recent numbers that we have are from September, which is about 6.4%. So we can see that we did hit our peak and then come back down. I think that's a positive that we're at 6.4, considering everything that has happened. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds. We'll continue to watch that. Next slide. Okay, significant revenues over or under budget for fiscal year 20. Total of $6.3 million more than expected. If you see, property tax came in over budget by $1.1 million. The majority of this increase was related to business, personal property, not real property tax. The state does provide these estimates to the county. Businesses pay this tax on furniture, fixtures, and equipment utilized in the operation of their business. The second line, income tax, like we discussed before, did come in over budget by $4.2 million. Took a look at the income tax and separated it into two categories as we were analyzing why we received $4.2 million more. And as I did that, I put them into two categories, one being the distributions for the current fiscal year 20, which is comprised of mainly withholdings, quarterly withholdings. And then the other portion is for reconciling distributions. Those are distributions that are related to prior years, so 2019 and prior. We continue to get these reconciling distributions years after the tax year. And so once I could separate those two, I found that the reconciling distributions from prior years amount to about $2.3 million of the 4.2. The remaining 1.9 is related to the current year. However, when we look at the information, we can see that 1.7 of that 1.9 was found in the fourth quarter from April, May, and June. And that coincides directly with the $600 additional stimulus payment, which does add to the conversation which I spoke to earlier about the state and other counties also having higher income tax due to the stimulus. The third item, recordation tax, we did receive almost 1 million more than budget, and that is just related to increased property transfers. Speed camera revenue, we were under budget significantly by 1 million. Again, we attribute that to increased response to the cameras. We did significantly reduce the speed camera budget for fiscal year 21 to 1.6 million. We have offsetting expenditures for the cameras of about 800,000, and so the net of that, which is 800,000, is being transferred to the Public Safety and Emergency Services Training Facility that is found in the capital plan. And lastly, for revenue, investment income was over budget by 1.1 million. This is mainly due to higher rates that were realized in the beginning of the year prior to COVID. Next slide. Significant expenditures over or under budget are in front of you. As you may recall, early in the year, we did, you commissioners did authorize the catch-up payments to fire and EMS companies. These payments caught them up from a system that we had in place where we were budgeting and reimbursing some expenditures that may have been 12 months to 18 months in the past. And we changed that process. We now reimburse them quarterly. So it's more up-to-date information, but we had to catch them up from that 12 to 18 month period. And that did come at a cost of $2.5 million. The second line, we had wage savings of around 800,000. This is mainly due to vacancies and an effort to reduce expenditures, especially in the last quarter as we were holding on to see what COVID had in store for us.
Daggone, I finally found the money from being short of employees, right?
That's right, sir. There it is. I'll put that up for you. Okay, the third one is significant, and this goes back to the unusual circumstances conversation that I started off with related to healthcare costs. We did have 5 million in savings due to benefits, which is mainly related to the health insurance as a result of delayed doctor visits and procedures due to COVID. Again, you'll note that I do have a little note there that says deferred expenses because we do expect those surgeries, those procedures to still be performed, just at a later date. We also had operational savings of 2.6 million. This was primarily in reaction to COVID and reducing any discretionary spending as a county-wide effort within each department.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
On this slide, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Couple months ago, give or take, you sent us an email that you thought our overage would be around 12 million, and you talked about putting some additional money to capital. Is that what the last line, additional capital transfer?
Yes, sir.
Represents?
Yes, sir, it is. And so as you can see too, the net result, the 9.6, if you add the 2.7, that is what I had discussed or sent earlier, yes. And as Commissioner Kiefer mentioned, the additional capital transfer 2.7, generally at the end of the year, as a county process, we look and see what we have in reserves, what we want to maintain in our general fund reserves, and then we make a decision to transfer a certain amount to capital. However, I'd like to mention that we can always transfer it back. It is up on your discretion what we do with those funds. We don't have to spend those funds. They do act as additional reserve, and the rating agencies view them as reserves as a whole. So they look at our general fund reserves, and then they also look and see what we have in capital reserves. Any questions?
Were they allocated to a specific project?
No, sir, they are not. They are there for a future decision or to be held in reserves. Yes. Next slide. Which kind of is a good segue to general fund cash reserve slide. In FY19, we had 42.7 million or 17.92%. With the additional reserves from fiscal year 20, we now have 52.3 million or 20.49%. I will mention that our policy states that we maintain no less than 17% reserves. We constantly are reminded by rating agencies when we have our discussions that an increase in reserves would only help the county as far as our AA rating, and as we look into trying to obtain that AAA rating. We're not sure how likely that would be given our economy to obtain the AAA, but a lot of our AAA peers do have reserves well above the 17%, and most in the lower 20%. And so that's a positive impact. And also, I'd like to mention, if we do see an increase in healthcare costs, like we expect, that go over budget, this reserves may reduce in fiscal year 21 or 22 due to that. And so I think that's a realistic expectation.
Not to rain on your happy parade here, I mean, it's all good news.
Yes.
But basically, the bottom line is, we've got extra money because the salaries were paid more income tax because of the stimulus.
Yep.
We had better housing sales, which was recordation, and the income tax came in from the salary, and a lot less elected surgeries. So we haven't seen the effect of COVID maybe till next fiscal year, where everybody gets their surgeries done. You know, what happens to the housing market, recordation, which isn't a huge thing, and everybody doesn't get, possibly not get another big stimulus.
We may not.
And so that big fund could, or the state or the government takes money from us.
That's correct.
That could be a very.
I have a special slide for this
Oh,
conversation.
you do?
I do.
Okay.
So,
I mean,
but you're
I'm optimistic. This is a happy day today.
You're right.
Yeah, next we might need every cent of that.
This is a very positive conversation.
Sorry.
But yes, sir, you're right. There are certainly things to consider as we move forward, and that's why I wanted to mention that reserve may reduce in future years, depending on what we see in fiscal year 21 and 22. And related to the stimulus also, I mean, when we were talking to the state on that very subject, it was mentioned that a lot of the unemployment claims were coming from the service sector and those lower wage jobs. And so in many instances, those who were collecting the unemployment of $1,000 a week were paying higher income tax than they originally would have been if they would have been employed. Next slide, please. So that is what I have on the general fund. I'd like to move in for some just short highlights of other funds. Next slide. Highway fund revenue did come in under budget by about $400,000. A portion of that was related to reduced highway user revenue, and then there were some other revenues as well. The good news is expenditures also came in under budget, but exceeding the $400,000, so by about $1.2 million, and that was mainly related to vacancies, lower than expected snow removal costs because we had a very mild winter, and reduced costs for fuel as well. Next slide. Solid waste fared very well. Their tipping fees exceeded the budget by by $800,000. This is related to an increase in volume of tipping fees, not related to fees. We did not increase the fees for fiscal year 20. And it is important to note that this revenue does fluctuate from year to year, and it does kind of move with economic activity. And so we're not guaranteed that in the future, but it was a good year for that. Expenditures did come in line with budget, so no concerns there. Where they may have exceeded somewhere, they reduced elsewhere. So all in all, a good picture for solid waste. Next. Golf actually had a very good outcome as well. While revenues were down by $75,000, mainly related to them shutting down because of COVID, there were offsetting expenditures that came in under budget as well. So in some years past, we've had to make an additional transfer to the golf fund in certain instances, but this year we did not. Next slide. The water fund, revenues came in true to budget. Expenditures came in about $126,000 under budget, mainly due to wages and benefits. I'd like to note that no fiscal year 20 general fund appropriation occurred. However, we do anticipate the need for general fund appropriation in the future. FY21 does assume around $107,000 appropriation to the water fund. Next slide. And finishing off the funds here with sewer, we had a great year for sewer. Revenue came over budget by about 800,000, and this is mainly due to increased connection fees and commercial customer utility rates or revenue from commercial customers. And so that was great news. And also, we had an under budget situation for the expenditures, around $1 million. About half of that is related to wages and benefits. The other half is related to operating cost savings. And so I think that that's an amazing story for sewer, and it puts us in a really good position as we move into conversations for the fiscal year 22 budget.
Oh, just pause the, have we heard back from the committee that we set up on about the water and sewer? Because I think we should definitely have that back to us before we start our.
I believe they anticipate to make their report in December to you.
Outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then next slide, please. And so this is the special slide I said I had for all of your questions.
You can tell I don't read ahead, right?
Oh, you're fine. And so, you know, while we did have a great fiscal year 20, we do need to maintain flexibility in the budget as we move forward. There are a lot of unknowns. There could be potential state cuts to local governments that we don't know what they are yet. There could be legislative changes that could increase our current costs. I know at the state level, they've been trying to shift additional costs.
Cost shifting was one of the issues we brought up to the delegation last Tuesday.
Yes, sir, exactly. Cost shifting, especially as it relates to those SDAT fees. And again, you know, as we can see in our community right now, the duration of the virus and potential future shutdowns, they're just unknown. You know, we do expect the increase in healthcare costs as a result of the previous delays. We do anticipate commercial assessment appeals and reductions in property tax, and we'll be talking more about that in fiscal year 22 budget. And then any other unknown impacts also. So I think while we had a great fiscal year 20, you just want to be careful as we move forward, and maybe hold on to those reserves if we can, and you know, just proceed cautiously.
By the looks of the whole report, I think all the departments need congratulated.
They have done a phenomenal job.
I mean, you know, the golf course turned around. I mean, just every department in there sort of turned around. So I'd really want to know. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I have a bright lining here. I think there's commercial development, which pays a lot of the bills, is up in Washington County. We're moving forward that, so that should help.
That's right.
So
we're still seeing a lot of those large development projects moving forward. It is good news, and I agree with you 100%. Without the leaders that we have in our county that run these departments and have control over their budgets, we wouldn't have 9.6 million.
One of my questions to follow Brandy here. Property tax, for some of these developments that we have that are coming online now, do we know what, or do we have an idea of what the increase in the property tax is going to be for them?
I don't have it in my head, but we do have it, and I can get that to you.
That'd be great.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a huge positive things with a lot of these coming online now, and then we'll have more coming on in the future. So
absolutely.
Sarah, thank you for presenting the budget recap to us. It's good to see that both revenues were up greater than expected, but expenses in particular, I think that's important to note because, you know, a lot of the revenues, to a degree, we set the tax rate obviously, but what happens nationwide and what happened with the stimulus checks and the unemployment, the unemployment, not the stimulus, is outside of our control as county staff, county commissioners, but expenses are something that we can handle, and it's good to see that they were scaled back. That's something that we have a direct control over for the most part. So
absolutely.
I'm happiest to see that most of all.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Thank you for your presentation. What I'm seeing here, we've had a positive report, but we're optimistically cautious about the future. And I find it very important that we're keeping money in that reserve account so we can ensure our current bond rating, possible future bond rating increase, or the unexpected costs of healthcare and other expenses that we'll be able to handle and manage.
Yes,
So I think we're running our household, our government pretty well with those type of plans and hopes for the future and contingencies. So thank you
100%.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no more questions, we will proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Klein, we're running a little behind schedule here, and I believe Dr. Klauber has another appointment he needs to
Okay.
get to, so I might suggest if we take
Great.
the,
Let's move forward to the Hagerstown Community College
Yes, thank
paramedic
you.
program. Thank you for the reminder. Gentlemen, please come forward, introduce yourself and the matter. That Randy Wagner going over his 100-word questions, he's running out of time.
We probably won't make that 100-word.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dr. Jim Klauber. I'm president at Hagerstown Community College, and thank you for accommodating me. I do have a board meeting at 12 o'clock, so that pretty important. I might try and get there. I don't want them to, they might give me the heave-ho if I don't show up. We've been looking at ways at the college to reduce some of our costs, and also to look at programs that were either low enrollment or programs that you did not need to get a 2-year degree to get a career certification and go to work. And there were several that we have looked at and closed. Farm Tech last year, we looked at phlebotomy this year, and we looked at medical assisting this year, and we moved all of those over to our non-credit side, where we still can offer those to people who would like to have them. Another one was paramedic that we looked at. Had very few students in there who were pursuing the 2-year degree because they didn't need the 2-year degree to get a licensure as a paramedic technician. The county does an excellent job with EMT training. They do really good, and for us to also offer that seemed a little redundant to me, and so we looked at wanting to close that paramedic program for those reasons. Our historical enrollments were pretty low, or at least our graduations were very low, and a lot of our graduates didn't stay here. I think a lot of them went to other counties. So that we're here to serve Washington County. So we started to talk with Mr. Hayes and Mr. Downey about ways that we could work together, a lot like we do with the police academy and the sheriff and the police chief, or the corrections academy, like we do with the Department of Corrections, where we could jointly hold the paramedic certification, but let the county do the training for the paramedic side. If some student came through and got the paramedic certification from the county, then and they wanted to come get a 2-year degree, if that was their choice or something they wanted to pursue, then the college could award a certain amount of credits. Probably we would have to agree on it at some point in time by agreement, but up to a maximum probably of 41 credit hours towards an associate degree, based on what their training would be. But that would be free to the students. So we could work that out to where if someone wanted to do that, but if they wanted just to get the certification, they could do that through the county doing the training, us running it through our non-credit side of the house at the college, and we would hold jointly would hold the accreditation. And so we've kind of talked that out, and I think it's something that we both want to pursue. I have a little bit of GEARS Act money from the governor that we want to use to retain a consultant to kind of help and assist the county with getting its operation set up and kind of absorbing that training and what they would need to do and what they would need to have. And I've reached out to her. I hadn't heard back from her, but and kind of expressed to her what we may need to do. And so that's kind of where we are from the college's point of view. We think that this program would be run a lot better jointly between the two of us working together, rather than each of us kind of having almost not competitive programs, but really kind of doing it on our own. I just think it would work better for the students and work better for the county in the long run.
So David Hayes, Director of Emergency Services. Have with me Assistant Director David Chisholm. So we've probably met 2 or 3 times to date and shared various degrees of information relative to what the college did to try to get some encapsulation of what the program would need as far as faculty and what that cost could possibly be. So Dr. Klauber and his staff were gracious enough to provide a 5-year data set that represents their investment into the program in past. So what we believe, and again, we'll have some of this better defined under a consultant, which is one of the positives that the college has brought forward, is we'd likely need a full-time program coordinator, and then we would likely need some type of adjunct faculty, which would be 1099 type employees. They wouldn't be full-time, and they'd be what we would call per diem as needed. The conversations we had, we currently don't have a facility that would accommodate delivery of the paramedic program. Again, Dr. Klauber has brought forth a positive conversation that we could work from the college for a very nominal fee, and it is definitely nominal. And then there'd be some small lab fees here and there, but again, very, very small. And then to actually be the accreditation part of the program, I think it was like about $8 a student, which again is very nominal. So the cost to the college to be the partner in this are minimal. The county would likely look at, and this is just right now, a segue into a figure somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 to run this program through the county. Our plan would be to start this plan no earlier than next fall and launch it from the physical location of the college, use their labs, and then transition it to the Public Safety Training Center at such time that building is complete. It's designed to host a class like this, and I would advocate that the police academy currently runs from the physical location of the college, and I believe the sheriff and Hagerstown Police Chief's intent is to locate that program down at the Public Safety Training Center. Director Chisholm is more versed in the paramedic program than I am because he has actually participated in some of the instructional components of both the current HCC program and probably throughout his most recent history, so I'll allow him to add some conversation to that. And then
Dave, can I ask a question here real quick?
Certainly.
What's the level, when did we last graduate paramedics from HCC?
You'll
Graduate, their last class will be in December.
They'll graduate in December.
The teach out ends in December, yes.
So then we just go till next fall, we'd start, under your proposal maybe, to take that over basically.
No earlier than. We do not feel that with the amount of work there is between today and whatever the first day is, that we can accomplish that any sooner than next fall, even without the lift of hiring 33.
How many of the paramedics stay in our community that graduate?
I don't think we have that number exactly, but there's a fair number, and that's the advantage of having the program here. They're trained here, they do their clinicals here, they ride in the field with us here. We basically get to see our next batch of employees before we ever hire them. That's the advantage of having the program in the county at DES. We've been in full cooperation with the college for years now on clinical sites.
So I guess what I'm getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm totally fine, but if we're paying for them, it'd be nice if we gotta start paying for them.
Right.
It'd be nice if they stayed.
So
That's what sort of what I'm getting, but anyway.
Yeah, what I would see in a vision looking forward, Commissioner, is they would move into some type of contractual obligation if they're going to get the education free on our cost. If they were an out-of-county person coming, we likely would charge some type of tuition. It's not going to pay for the program, but it would help offset the cost of the program. And again, if we weren't going to get a value of that, we wouldn't have that sunk cost in training somebody to be somebody else, somewhere else.
And Commissioner, that's much the way I think the Sheriff and the Police Academy do. If they're coming from out of county, those students will pay a certain amount to the sheriff for the right to be in that program.
Okay, thank you. Good. Sorry to interrupt there, but I just.
No, I think really where I was going is if there are questions from the commissioners.
So as this evolves, you'll be in again to
Yeah,
details.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of this today was to tell you that A, to apprise you of what the status is, B, to tell you that there have been discussions in a way to perhaps provide the same services in a different manner, and C, to get your buy-in to continue to devote staff resources to moving forward to put together a proposal that will
That'd be
deliver
fine.
those
I think
services.
it's great.
Commissioners,
They're cooperating we're cooperating together. I think it's a great. thing
consensus
myself.
to move forward, so this is a good discussion, thank you.
I would like to make sure, you know, what we, Director Hayes, what you said, is that, you know, as we're moving forward to this, there needs to be some type of agreement that if they're getting the education free, that they're going to be working in Washington County, for some set of duration. And if they leave Washington County employment, then they're gonna be paying something back.
Yes.
So, and we do that, I'm 100% on board, and I thank the cooperation with HCC, and I think, you know, it's a good partnership that we'll have until we can move it forward, so, thank you.
Gentlemen, if there's nothing else, that suffices. You've got our consensus, support. Thank you very much.
Good luck with the board. Good luck with the board.
And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention with Commissioner Baker, the HCC track and field, 9th in the nation, just finished their national championship out in Iowa last week. So
congratulations.
The legacy continues.
Yeah, I gotta get out.
They have an awesome coach, just asking.
Just asking. All right, we'll back up and go back to, I believe we left off for the Environmental Management Advisory Committee. Please come forward, introduce yourself and the matter. Gentlemen, thank you for being patient.
Good morning, Brock Shriver, Chair of the Environmental Management Advisory Committee.
Dave Mason, Deputy Director of Environmental Management, Solid Waste.
And I provided the commissioners with a fairly comprehensive report of what we've been doing for the last 18 months or so, given COVID. I don't want to rehash all of it, given our time constraints here, but I'll hit the finer points, and if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. The recommendation of the committee, after listening to several presentations regarding what to do about landfill waste alternatives, we came up with an official recommendation that we should explore expanding the county's current recycling program. We should also explore expanding the current composting program in the county, both of which are successful, and explore pelletization options, particularly some companies, Green, Alley Run, and Sorga, and their competitors. We recommended those companies specifically because those were the ones that presented to us, but we would certainly recommend that any other competitors that the county's interested in be contacted. The reason that this issue came before the committee is because we have an absolutely unsustainable method of waste disposal here, which is essentially the 40 West landfill that's somewhat supplemented by recycling and composting. But the 40 West landfill takes the vast majority of all the solid waste in the county, 111,466 tons in 2018. And the lifetime cost of that operation is around $315 million. And at that point, when the capacity of that landfill fills up, and it will, and we're estimating about the year 2060 at this point, it's estimated that it's going to cost an additional $390 million to open a new landfill and get the first cell used. Currently, our landfill has a 15 cell capacity, and we're using 5 of them. So the areas that we explored, we spoke with respect to composting, we spoke with a company called Compost Crew in Silver Spring, and the way their operation works is they would have extra cans, right now, most of the trash pickup, we have recycling bins and then the regular trash. Their method, they use an additional can for food waste products, things that are specifically good for composting. And then they would have delivery trucks that would come pick them up. I think the biggest disadvantage there is much of the disadvantage in many of the services that we come up with in Washington County is that in Silver Spring they have a pretty dense population and it's economically feasible to drive trucks around and pick up these items. For them here, because we're more spread out in the county, it becomes a little more of a cost burden. So that would be things that need to be checked out.
Brock.
Yes.
Excuse for interrupting. There's a private company now in Washington County that is collecting compost. Because I just got a letter on my door that you pay them, they collect their compost, and then you'll get so much of it back if you want for your garden. So I don't know if you've heard about them, but
I haven't
this
seen.
is all 2 weeks ago.
My neighbor has one up across the street in their yard, a sign. I haven't had an opportunity to explore that. It looks like they were out of Frederick, but are they based here now?
Well, they're now picking up in Washington County.
Well, so very good, because composting is actually very successful in Washington County. The compost we do now is strictly limited to yard waste and other debris, but as Mr. Mason will tell you, as fast as we can generate the compost, we sell it, and it's taken away. So any expansion on that would only help the county. With respect to recycling, we do have a recycling program here that's limited to certain things. And it would be helpful if we expanded maybe a fourth sorting facility. That's part of the problem. But the bigger thing with recycling is, and I put this in the report, is that it's more of a market problem than anything else. What to do with it once we've recycled it. And so the recommendation of the board, particularly with recycling, is to explore some more creative markets. And the example we put in here is in Fairfax County and Fairfax City, Virginia, they recycle all their glass and it's used in their paving process for aggregate. And it seems to be very successful. We have one of the members of the committee works down in that area, is familiar with that. Now the bigger solution and the more, I guess, requires more exploration per our recommendation is pelletization. And I'll let Mr. Mason talk about the details of that, but essentially pelletization is a process where they have a large machine that almost all of the landfill waste can be put into this machine and turned into 8,000 BTU pellets and then sold. Now, the technology is extremely interesting for the committee, but our recommendation is limited. We would ask that if you all are going to explore it, we did not get any information as to the financial side. Again, pelletization is another form of recycling, and markets are the key. What are we going to do with the pellets once they've been created? The companies that we spoke to are all very confident that they have markets already in place to sell these pellets to. However, they would not divulge much of the financial information to us because they wanted to save that if we were actually going to explore it more. And at your request, they indicated they would give you that kind of information. So to explore the pelletization, the financial side of it was the biggest key. However, one of the companies in Sorga that we did discuss, one of their models is they essentially come in as a company that is going to operate everything. They would set it up and generate at no cost to the county for the initial setup, and they would make their money off of tipping fees and other revenues. And if the county wanted to invest in that, they would be fine with that, and they would then receive return on investment through that capacity. But I suppose the county would have to agree then to filter most of the solid waste in Washington County to them and not through the landfill anymore. So ultimately, the county does recommend that we explore expanding the recycling programs and explore the pelletization technology to invite Regreen and Sorga. It's another plant in West Virginia that's currently running, and I think it's about 85% of their solid waste goes through there. The difference between Regreen and Sorga is the length of time with the process. Regreen's process is, I think, in an hour. They do what in Sorga it takes a day to process. So they're very close, and our members did go down there and view that plant, and they were impressed with the operation. It did work as they said that it did. But again, we would stress that you focus particularly on end user markets and contingencies. One of the downfalls that we explored is that, or that we looked at, is that if the markets were for the pellets to dry up or the market became saturated, then what do we do? So we would ask that you focus specifically on those areas and what were these companies' guarantees if that were to happen. And then the recommendations that we made, as I laid out, do follow the governor's executive order, which they instruct us, or the governor's instructed all the counties to minimize environmental impacts and materials management, conserve and extend existing in-state disposal capacity through reduction, reuse, and recycling, and to make optimal use of recovered resources, including raw materials, water, and energy, and work towards a system of materials management that is environmentally and economically sustainable long-term. And as we said, the landfill is simply not sustainable long-term, and something does need to be explored. I'll turn it over if you have any questions, or Mr. Mason, do you have anything to say? Or you just wanted to add?
I mean, that sums up what the committee has been studying for 18 months. We could get into the technical aspects of these technologies if you want to, but since we're pressed on time, we'll just open up to questions. And
I probably have an unrelated question, but related. We have the school board in the city of Hagerstown. We're former clients. Are there any initiatives to attract them back to the landfill?
Actually, with the school board's new contract, Allied Waste is picking up their trash, and it does come to landfill. City of Hagerstown is still waste management, and it's still going across Pennsylvania.
Okay, and I've got a point of clarification. Is this just for a consensus to move forward? It says motion, or am I just picking on words? Because I think we're probably going to agree that you move forward, but I don't know if we need the actual term of motion, or it's a consensus to move forward with these exploration of these ideas. That's legal. It's basically the same thing. It just is a motion, the necessary language, or is it a consensus to move forward?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for them to report on what they've been finding and to make recommendations, and for the commissioners to give direction.
So consensus or motion, either way, consensus would be the less formal words, or?
I mean, ultimately, the goal would be to put out an RFP for these services and find a company who's willing to come in, build a facility to whatever specifications we point out.
Suggestion, before we do an RFP, for the pelletization, it seems like there's different technologies and different processes, and I think we need more information so that we can fill out the RFP that we want. So I don't know if you can say an RFI, request for information, say, hey, this is what we're looking at. We're interested in the pelletization, but we want to find out what's out there and who's there, and we want to move forward. And then once we figure the technology, the process, you talked about one being no cost to us, that would help set us a correct RFP. So I think 100% I'm behind getting more information, and I think we need to move forward with that. But I don't think we're at the step yet of an RFP.
Yeah, as far as the technology goes with pelletization, there are closed systems which process everything a lot faster, which is Regreen and Alley Run do more of a closed system. The Ensorga plant in Martinsburg is an open system. You can actually see the trash sitting there. They use, some bacteria to decompose, cause some decomposition. And that process takes a few days. Like Brock said, what Regreen Technologies does in a matter of a few hours, and Sorga does in a matter of days.
Yeah.
So it's, regardless of the process, the end result would still be the same. So, I can get you that specific information on each company I think the type of technology, it's not irrelevant, but the end product is the same, whether it's pelletized, whether it's fluff material.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I guess, for me, like you said, are we going to have an upfront cost? Is it gonna cost us this much money? What is, what
Yeah.
plans do they have? And, that, I wanna see that information so that we can set the RFP, because maybe the company that you talked to earlier, they say it's gonna cost this, but if we say, look, we want no upfront costs on it, they'll say, okay, we can look at that.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
and we've discussed that with the companies that have come in for presentations, and they're pretty much open to whatever the county is willing to put forward or not.
And then you said one of them wouldn't give the financials yet, or,
Well, none of them were interested in discussing financials in the presentations before the advisory committee.
Yeah.
They would be glad to do it in a, I guess, an RFP process, but they were unwilling to give us that information at all.
So,
At this point, they've also offered to come in and speak to the commissioners directly, if that's the route you want to go. They can
Again,
come in and give you
my
a
comment is this
presentation.
a consensus or a motion? What word are we
It's a
working for?
consensus.
Consensus is
think
what
you're-
I'd like to have.
Okay.
I'm
I
not
mean, there's-
interested in listening to any presenters if it's gonna cost the taxpayers a lot of money or upfront costs from the taxpayers. If they're going to be making lots and lots of money off of it, I think we should, see some of that profit also. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, the way that would be structured is if they come in with 100% of their capital cost, the county puts nothing forward, the county would receive a percentage of revenues, and then once the capital costs are recovered, the county's cut would increase.
and what I'd also like to see in these recommendations is how is it going to increase the length of the landfill? Because that needs to be taken in consideration with our costs, because what you put in here at 2070, it's gonna, could cost us $390 million. So if we can expand that 10 years or whatever it is, that's going to.
Yeah, and if we push forward with some kind of pelletization, we may never have to build another landfill ever again.
Well, and that needs to be taken into account in our cost consideration, so maybe it does cost us a little bit more, but it doesn't cost us a disgusting amount down the
Okay,
road.
commissioners, what's our pleasure? I gotta please forgive my rudeness, but we need to move on. We have a large agenda remaining. Commissioners, what's your thoughts? Is it a motion or a consensus to move forward with information? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we continue.
I'd rather have a consensus,
Then,
if that's okay.
Let's move
Mr.
forward.
Downey just said a consensus. Is there a consensus to move forward with more
Yeah, I mean,
information?
you've heard the report. The direction to staff should be to continue to work with the
Yes.
EMAC to develop these initiatives, and when there's something that requires a specific action item, it should be brought before the board, same as anything else.
Very good. I think that's.
I would agree. Thank you, Brock, and thanks to the
Yeah.
other committee members for this
Thank you.
information.
Thank you.
It's
Appreciate
important.
it. It's very thorough. Appreciate that.
If I could just finish it.
And you're
Please
gonna-
go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Brock, and please thank the other committee members for working on this information for us. The landfill has capacity for us in the short term, but in the long term, not so much, so it's important. Those companies that you further explore to present to us, I think it's important for me. I'm not interested in doing business with a company that's still in that research and development phase that needs loans, a company that has a proven track record of doing this in multiple locations, not just one. I think I would like to hear from those companies, but limited to those companies who are already successful.
Yeah, the majority of the folks we've talked to are established with multiple facilities across the country and still expanding, so, yes, we've kind of moved past that, you know, let's start this process. No, we're at the point where we want to keep moving forward with a company that's already established.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Next up on the agenda.
Thanks, Brock. We'll be
Thank
seeing
you,
you in
everybody.
about a month.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Chris Boggs, please come forward, introduce the subject.
Chris Boggs, Land Preservation Planner, Department of Planning and Zoning. I'll make it pretty quick for you. It's another rural legacy easement from our FY20 grant. It's the Nathan and Natalie Kraft property on Mount Carmel Church Road. It's a pretty good standard rural legacy project, and you know, we think it'd be ideal for the program. We'll still get those admin and compliance costs to the county, and you know, basically it's a good rural legacy project contiguous to other preserved easements. Recommended motion is to approve the project for $104,896.95 over 43.89 easement acres. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Mr. Boggs.
Thank you.
How many acres does that give us now in the program?
In rural legacy, we've got over 7,200 now.
And combined with the other program?
It's gonna be right around 35,000.
So we have 35,000 acres
Yeah, and the
possibly
one thing I
preserved.
did wanna, I thought about bringing up is that, the agenda report form, I must have wrote before we received our most recent grant. And so now, instead of being at 23 million total, we're at 25 million in funding.
Thank you very
for
much.
rural legacy.
Good job, thank you. Next up, intergovernmental cooperative purchase. Brandy Noggle, please introduce yourself in the matter. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brandy Noggle, Buyer in the Purchasing Department.
David Hayes, Director of Emergency Services.
The first recommendation I have for you this morning is for the Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchase INTG 20-0051 for personal protective equipment for the Division of Emergency Services. We move to authorize by resolution the approval of the purchase for the following personal protection equipment: 50 pants and coats, 36 firefighting helmets, 50 firefighter gloves, and 50 Majestic hoods, also 50 pairs of boots. The Division of Emergency Services would like to purchase these from Whitmer Public Safety Group out of Williamsport, Maryland, at a contracted unit total price of $143,966.50 based on a contract awarded by the state of New Jersey. The local law does allow for the county to procure goods and services under a contract entered into by another government entity. The county will benefit by a direct cost savings in the purchase of the PPE supplies because of the economies of scale set forth in this contract. This structural firefighting turnout gear will be purchased to outfit 33 newly hired firefighter, fire apparatus operators, and 3 new hired captains, which will be done in February of 2021. Funding is available in the department's FY21 operating budget.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, welcome back, Brandy. Please introduce the subject.
The second recommendation I have for you this morning is for the contract award PUR 1476 for gasoline and diesel fuel deliveries. Move to authorize the award of these bids for gasoline and diesel fuel transport deliveries and gasoline and diesel tank wagon deliveries under option 1 of the bid for 4 separate contracts to the responsible bidders who submitted the lowest bid. Item number 1 for option number 1 was the gasoline tank wagon deliveries, which we would recommend to award to AT&T out of Hagerstown, Maryland. Item number 2, gasoline transport deliveries. The recommendation is to award to Petroleum Traders out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Item number 3, for diesel tank wagon deliveries, recommend to award to AT&T out of Hagerstown, Maryland. Item number 4, diesel transport deliveries. Recommendation to award to Mansfield Oil Company out of Gainesville, Georgia. The bids were received October 21st of 2020 based on estimated quantities. The contract period is tentatively to begin December 1st, 2020 and end November 30th, 2021. The contract is for a period of 1 year with no option to renew. This is a requirements contract and the county does not guarantee a maximum or a minimum. The bid was advertised on the State of Maryland's eMaryland Marketplace website, the county's website, and the local newspaper. 30 companies downloaded the document, and we did receive 6 bids on this. The contract requirements is for the county and also includes the City of Hagerstown, Washington County Public Schools, and Hagerstown Community College. And they're included in the above recommendations. These entities will make their own formal contract award. Funding is available in the operating budgets for the departments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up, introduce the topic. And introduce yourself and topic, please.
Randy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department.
Vianney Yahtzee, Deputy Director of Water Quality.
Mark Bradshaw, Deputy Director of Environmental Management.
My last recommendation this morning is for the bid award PUR 1475 swimming pool and wastewater treatment chemicals. Move to award the bid for swimming pool and wastewater treatment chemicals to the responsive responsible bidders who submitted the lowest bids for each item as indicated on the table and they are provided. The county accepted bids on October 21st for the swimming pool and wastewater treatment chemicals for county using department as well as the City of Hagerstown and the town of Boonesboro. The invitation of bid was advertised on the State of Maryland's eMaryland Marketplace website, the county's website, and the Herald Mail, the local paper. 47 companies downloaded the document and we did receive 21 bids. The term of the contract is for a 1-year period, tentatively to begin December 1st, of 2020, ending November 30th of 2021, with no option to renew. The above recommendations are for county requirements only. The City of Hagerstown and the town of Boonesboro will make their own separate awards. Funding is available in the Department of Water Quality and the Parks Department's budgets.
Commissioners?
Motion to approve. Second.
First and second, any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, enhanced nutrient removal, Mr. Bradshaw.
Mark Bradshaw, Deputy Director of Engineering Services. I'm coming here today to request approval of a change order for Brugard Horn in the amount of $355,974. Brugard Horn prepared and submitted the 90% design drawings utilizing denitrification filters based on MDE criteria. The county has since worked with MDE to reduce the more stringent design requirements that require the denitrification filters. With the reduced limits, we requested Brugard Horn to evaluate the need for the denitrification filters. Brugard evaluation indicates the design limits can be obtained by eliminating the denitrification filters and installing equalization basins. Brugard Horn has estimated the capital savings associated with using the equalization basing over the denite filters as $2.1 million. Another advantage is the new influent EQ tank will be converted to a post EQ tank when the plant is ultimately expanded to 0.6 MGD.
Commissioners, any comments?
So Mark, what is the current proposed cost for the project in total?
Around $6 million.
$6 million.
How many change orders have been presented for this project?
This is a Brugard Horn has been involved with the ENR since the beginning. You want the total for Brugard Horn total or just for Smithsburg?
Just for this project.
2 or 3.
And you anticipating any more?
No, we should not have any more on the design side.
Have you vetted this and looked over pretty well, and this is your recommendation?
Yes, and staff's also reviewed
Okay,
everything.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Have first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. Next up, International Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchase. I believe Josh O'Neill and Mr. Eichelberger. Gentlemen, everyone please introduce yourself and the matter.
Josh O'Neill, Division Director of Information Systems.
Ashley Holloway, Director of Plan Review and Permitting.
Rich Eichelberger, Director of Construction.
Recommend a motion to move to authorize purchase of software and technical services, ePlansoft, plan review and permitting software, the amount of $117,360, and it's going to be funded by CARES grant money.
Motion to approve.
That motion may be contingent upon the approval of video.
We have that. I forwarded that to you.
Motion to approve.
So that the Chula Vista.
We have a motion. I have to get a second and go to discussion.
I'll second, but.
Okay, thank you.
The Chula Vista contract's already been done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it, so, I just wanna make sure that we, you know, if everything's being done correctly, I don't wanna.
That's why I want to make sure that
Okay, so then, can we?
Make the motion contingent
Yeah, if we can make the motion contingent.
of the review and acceptance by legal and purchasing. Is that correct, right? Okay, can we, is that okay to add that to that motion, Mr.
So
Baker?
is there any deviation from the recommended motion?
No, I think the issue is Chula Vista has not, as of the time the offer prepared, officially awarded their contract. Josh is indicating that they have done so. If that is true, and I have no reason to think that it's not true, then the condition precedent has been fulfilled and we can move forward here today. Rick is simply saying that has that not occurred, this procurement will not move forward.
And then one other, since this money's being covered, the purchase of this, software, being covered by the CARES Act, that's great. Any additional recurring expenses are gonna be, because of the software?
There will be a yearly maintenance cost, but it'll be a fraction of this value.
About how much is it?
I'm estimating 20,000.
20,000. Now, is that budgeted, and what is the current, software program that we have? What's that cost?
We will be putting that into the budget going forward, and currently we did not have an electronic means of doing this, so this was not a previously budgeted expense.
Okay, so this is gonna cost us an additional $20,000 annual.
Yes.
At a minimum. That's gonna be a new budget item that I'm gonna ask, Director Holloway and Eichelberger, this $20,000 it's gonna cost us additional, is it going to give you time savings, efficiencies? What is the benefit of this program to offset the $20,000 annual cost?
The benefit of this program is to allow customers that want to develop in Washington County to submit their permit plans online, and for us to review them online as well. Right now, everything is still paper. We still require hard copies, still require either mail-ins or drop-offs, or before COVID, in person. But this way, again, everything goes.
So it streamlines it quicker?
Yes.
Outstanding.
And this was something that was, when we upgraded from Permits Plus to Acela several years ago, this was one of the logical steps that we were looking at, and COVID has more or less kind of pushed us to move that along a little faster than what we originally had anticipated. So
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
this is something they're working towards. Had it occurred earlier, it would have made the whole quarantine, work from home workflow much easier for
Yes.
80 West. This is a good opportunity to use the Federal CARES Act funding to implement something that we want to do anyhow.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would ask that anytime that we're purchasing something, there's a recurring cost, please put that in the ARF so that we know what that recurring cost is going to be.
Okay, gentlemen, we have a first and a second with some extra language. The motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Thank you.
Next up, renewal Microsoft Office 365. Josh and Neil, welcome back. Please introduce yourself and the matter.
Joshua Neal, Division Director of Information Systems. This is renewal of our Microsoft Office 365 licensing, covers the standard Office suite and email, and this is a item that is budgeted for. Recommended motion to authorize sole source procurement in the amount of $127,807.17 via our distributor, Software House International.
Motion to approve.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. I think Josh, you're up again.
Joshua Neal.
Please introduce the subject.
Division Director of Information Systems. We've got the purchase of Microsoft Teams telephony integration licensing. Motion to authorize sole source procurement licensing in the amount of $50,488 from our Microsoft distributor, Software House International. And this is paid for by CARES grant money as well.
Same, what's going to be the recurring costs on this?
The reoccurring cost will be, most of that amount, but it is an amount that we're going to offset with the replacement of some of our old telephony stuff, which had an annual cost of $25,000, as well as various long distance and phone line charges. So the net cost to the county year over year is not going to be any significant change.
So 10,000?
I doubt it'll even be that. It'll be a few thousand if that.
Thank you very much.
And it enhances efficiencies when staff is not at their desk.
What it will allow us to do is transfer county phone extensions to people working from home, which has been a big problem so far through the COVID.
Or if they were traveling for business, if we ever get back to normal.
Yep.
All right, commissioners?
Make motion approved.
Second.
First, second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Next up, Josh and Neil, you're back.
We've got PUR 1482. There was a bid request for Dell PowerEdge R740XD servers. Recommended motion to award procurement of 10 servers to the lowest responsive bidder, MNJ Technologies Direct of Buffalo Grove, Illinois, in the amount of $348,006.40. This is using CARES grant funding, and we do not anticipate any reoccurring costs with this purchase.
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. 5-0. Next up.
I believe this is my last item. We have PUR 1483 Poly Telephony. This is a request for bid, motion to award the procurement of Poly telephone products to the lowest responsible bidder, Teltech, for the amount of, do you have that amount?
$121,432.20.
Can you repeat that amount, please?
$121,432.20.
And that is to be paid for with CARES grant money as well. And this is related to the Teams licensing. This is basically replacing phone handsets, and we do not anticipate a reoccurring cost with this.
Make motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a quick request, if we can. Maybe Kirk, it's not a priority, but maybe we could get a list of how the Federal CARES Act money has been used across departments. It sounds like a lot of it's gone to
a good
IT.
summary, correct?
Yeah, just nothing major.
Yeah, well, part of those funds were specifically identified for IT uses as in the CARES Act itself, so that's why you're seeing a lot of concentration there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Next up, Mr. Downey, presentation, letter of services for Bruce Bariano.
Your Honor, we are commissioners.
Your Honor, thank you very much.
Have it. Commissioners, we received a letter from Mr. Bariano, who has served as our lobbyist in Annapolis for a number of years, offering to once again serve as our lobbyist and represent our interest in Annapolis during the General Assembly, during session, and for whatever needs to be done outside of session. This is for an annual retainer. He has provided this service in the past. He's proposing to provide it again on the same terms and conditions this year as has been offered in the past. Essentially, his lobbying fee will be $10,000 plus reimbursement for any reasonable and necessary expenses such as mileage and travel, registration fees, duplication costs, etc. Given the strange environment the General Assembly is going to be operating in, given the fact that public access to the General Assembly members will be limited, and given the volatility that COVID has provided in this whole environment, I think it would be a very good idea to have someone who is local, knowledgeable, and able to act on our interest from locally, as we can't as readily do that from afar as we would in a normal environment. And certainly he's been useful in the past in bringing bills to our attention that we need to be aware of, as well as providing testimony either in favor of or opposed to some bills when that's come up.
Okay, Commissioner comments?
I fully support this. I know down in Annapolis with Mako, he's been very integral in setting appointments with other legislators or senators that we need to try to get things that we want or try to stop things from happening. And he's been, if I need an appointment with maybe somebody, he's able to get it done. And he's also, like you said, he has testified on behalf of Washington County if we can't make it. So I agree. So with that, I make a motion to support Bruce Bariano as our lobbyist.
Second.
Have a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Aye.
No.
Opposed? 3-2. Thank you. All right, next, reconvene, a motion to reconvene, go into, or convene as the Board of Health, pardon me.
Motion to convene as the Board of Health.
Is there a second? All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
I don't remember getting any updates.
He normally comes to do that. We were shut down.
You don't get the quote of the month still?
All right, we just convened as Board of Health. Earl,
All right.
please introduce yourselves.
Earl Stoner, Health Officer for Washington County Health Department.
Dan Triplett, Administrator for Washington County Health Department.
Thank you for your time today. We were looking for approval for a contract amendment for the grant that we have with Meritus Health. We had gotten approval earlier in the year to grant them $6 million out of the CARES money that came to the health department, and we are now looking to amend that contract to give an additional $700,000 for their activities associated with COVID-19. Again, there's no cost to the county. It is all CARES Act money that comes down to the state, I guess through the state from the feds.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, is there any further discussion?
How much money is remaining from the Federal CARES Act?
Yeah, you have all that.
Not including this 700,000, which would come against this. Right now, we have almost 4.5 million. We have not taken, we have about 1.2 million from that we need to take out of personnel for the health department. We have outstanding approximately almost 1.5 million to local nursing homes that we're trying to get invoices from them from grants that we issued to the local nursing homes. We have, we still have some remaining funds for the county itself for PPE, for, I know the Sheriff's Department just did 2 large purchases that we're gonna be reimbursing this week. We also have, I know there, new, computers for the 911 center that we're gonna be reimbursing. And then as we hit our cutoff is gonna be a lot sooner than yours, because the state has now pushed back our end date for using the CARES Act funds. We will be using whatever is remaining to cover county first responders' salaries. So we should utilize everything that the county health department has been given under the CARES Act.
I'm certainly in support of this. I just wanted to know how much money we had remaining,
And we'll float a summary to you guys once we have it all finalized.
Is this part of the money we gotta spend before the end of the year, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but there's 2 funds, remember, there's the county fund and the health fund, both of which were, what,
13 million.
Right.
So, I mean, I've given direction to our people that we're trying to use all those funds so nothing's left on the table, and
Correct.
we're all doing the same.
Good. All right, I think we had a first and a second. Motion to approve. All in favor? Aye. 5-0. Thank you very much. Motion to reconvene as the Board of Commissioners.
Motion to reconvene as Board of Commissioners.
Second. All in favor, say aye. And then a motion, I believe.
Make a motion to go to closed
Oh,
session.
one more. Thank you. Mr. Stoner? No, that's it. Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Thank you. My eyes are.
All in favor?